Joining us now again from Radio Row, and it's always a privilege and a pleasure, is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, good morning.
Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
I had Reed Ribble here a couple of minutes ago, and I said, that was an okay speech last night. And I know we're going to be accused of gushing and hyperbole and all of that, but I'm going to say it again. I believe by the way, for those of you listening in Wausau, Sheboygan, I know you didn't hear Reed. That segment was in Green Bay. Anyway, I believe that speech in modern political convention history, which I consider to be the television age, I really think could be the best.
Well, Jerry, I don't know how Paul could have done a better job.
Yeah.
And, anyway, it was such an honor for me standing there right in the front row of the Wisconsin delegation, looking up at Paul while he's knocking it out of the park. But what was even more interesting to me is I watched clips from him this morning as I was getting ready to come on in. On TV, I think it even came across better, which that's a pretty tall order. I just think he just did a fabulous job of taking advantage of the opportunity that only these conventions afford, where he's able to look in a camera and convey to tens of millions of Americans without any kind of media filter who Paul Ryan is, what a genuinely nice and decent and caring and kind man he is. Not only engage people's minds as he laid out the problem, laid out the failed policies and failed leadership of President Obama, but then also, I think, touched their hearts as he talked about his grandmother, his mother, his father, his family. He just did a fabulous job. I guess I'm gushing.
Well, but I'm telling you, he did. In fact, I don't know if I told you this when we chatted earlier. I watched it live. I woke up at 4 this morning, Eastern Time, and watched it again on cspan.org. And you can see these notes that I've put together on the little hotel stationery. This is the line that everybody's talking about. If you're 24 years old and you're living in your childhood bedroom, staring at that faded Obama poster, that to me has got to be one of the greatest speech lines of all.
Jerry, there's so many, and I haven't had time to list them out and document them. But going through my mind, well, I'll have to use that line or some variation of it. No, Paul made so many powerful points, both humorous, both serious, both tugging at the heartstrings. It was just a fabulous
Ship
speech.
trying to sail on yesterday's win.
Yep.
Talking about using the same slogans. Here's, in fact, I thought about this as I was talking with Reed, but didn't bring it up. Here's really what it comes down to. They're both running as challengers. Obama's trying to say, well, here's why they can't get it done, but President Obama can't point to his own record. They're both he's running on change again, which is something the incumbent usually doesn't do.
And, of course, running as a challenger, probably the primary point that Paul made last night is, if you're looking at President Obama's record in the first 3.5 years, why would you expect the performance in the second term to be any different whatsoever? Our president has pursued a path that wants to grow government because he believes that government, elite people like him can actually control our lives. And, we know the result of that, $5.3 trillion of additional debt heaped on the backs of our kids and grandkids.
A country where everything is free but us.
Right.
I
know. No, again, you're exactly. There are so many lines, I stopped trying to remember them, halfway through the speech because I knew I was going to have to go back and review it. It was just an excellent speech.
And when he brought up that President Obama feels where he failed is he hasn't told the story. And this line, other than just being a great speech line, I really think it goes to the point as we're talking with Senator Ron Johnson, where the president said, look, I just haven't told my story.
Yeah.
And he said, look, there's no shortage of words in the White House. What's missing is leadership. And I think you and I talked about this the other day. I do think that's what this election, this campaign is going to be about, leadership and lack thereof versus leadership that you can see.
Larry, that's what I've been screaming about since I arrived at the United States Senate. We have no leadership out of Senator Harry Reid in the Senate, not having passed a budget in 3 years. And certainly the president has exhibited no leadership in pressuring his colleagues in the Senate to pass a budget. He's provided no leadership in terms of presenting a budget that his Democratic colleagues could even vote for. There's a real void, and that is what is missing. That is the missing ingredient. America can be a land of opportunity again, but it requires leadership.
Congressman Ryan had no trepidation about pointing out, look, yeah, I'm younger than Mitt Romney, and he's the first Gen X presidential, in terms of on the presidential ticket, and made fun of that. The iPod, he's got AC/DC to Led Zeppelin, and Mitt's got elevator music and all of that. But I think what's important there, and this has kind of gotten lost, that was President Obama's selling point, youthful versus John McCain. He understands, well, President Obama is 3 days younger than me. And I'm 51. This really is Paul Ryan speaking a message, and that's the one word I wrote down was optimism. This whole speech was optimism to that younger generation.
And I've been saying that for literally a couple months now, that both Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney share one quality, and it is optimism. And that optimism will bring a totally different attitude to America in terms of America's open for business, and our economy can just leap forward. But that intergenerational reaching out to the younger people, that's so important, because let's face it, Jerry, it is our children and grandchildren whose future is being mortgaged right now because of this president. That's what's got to change.
Talking with Senator Ron Johnson, Tuesday's theme was "We built this." That, of course, countering the president saying you didn't build that. If you have a business or whatever, somebody else did that, referring basically that, look, you either think government's a big part of what drives the economy or the individual business person is, and he made very clear, we already knew that, but made very clear which side he's on. And a lot of people are saying that was distorted, taken out of context. Heck, if you listen to the whole thing, it's even worse.
It is worse. You think you worked hard, other people work hard. You think you're smart, other people are smart. You didn't build that thing. Somebody else made it happen. No, it's totally within context.
And another great line, and I really felt this was, I know they're all great.
I got to steal your notes.
Behind every small business, there is a story worth knowing.
Yeah, and that was a great explanation of, listen, somebody else didn't come in at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
So somebody else didn't, stay awake at night thinking about how am I going to meet the payroll. And Jerry, I've experienced that as well. Every business owner has put their life into their business, over a lifetime of effort. That is their business. They did build it. President Obama does not understand that.
70-hour work weeks and everything else. You got to get out of here? All right, you got to get out of here. All right, listen, Senator Ron Johnson, always a pleasure. Enjoy the speech tonight.
Have a good day.
Appreciate it. Ron's a popular guy in Radio Row, to say the least. Alex, thanks. Ron's got to get off and run to another interview, but always appreciate it. They almost literally dragged him out of here, Jason. I mean, really. He's got to go. He's got to go. That's all right. I did not get a chance to ask him what his expectations for Mitt Romney are tonight, but we'll talk about that a little later. All right. We're going to do similar to something that we did yesterday because we have some time here between guests. We're going to do similar to what we did yesterday. Now, I thought yesterday, as we were reviewing the Chris Christie and the Ann Romney speech, I thought Ann Romney had a great speech. I thought Chris Christie did better than what he's getting credit for. It's being called a bomb, a flop. I don't see that. I want to get your reaction on the Paul Ryan speech. Am I just being a partisan gusher because he's my guy, or was it that damn good? I'm telling you, I think it's one of the best, if not the best, political speech I have ever heard. And I'll go through the notes again. And I'll make my case on that other than just being a partisan. Look, if you're a liberal listening to this show, this would be a great time to call and say, because I know you're not going to agree with everything that Paul Ryan said. I know that. You're not going to agree with anything Paul Ryan said. I know that. But in terms of it being a brilliant speech, I defy you to tell me where it's not. 406-1360, 888-455-1360. Jerry Bader live from the Republican National Convention in Tampa, Florida. It is nice.
For all things Jerry Bader, JerryBaderShow.com.